Welcome indie gamers to Sunny Indie Gaming. Please hit that like button as it's so helpful to me, and sub to the channel for more indie games coverage. But today we're taking a look at Darksburg out on Steam. Now Darksburg caught my eye when it released to early access. As a fan of isometric top-down games like Diablo and a fusion of Left 4 Dead, this game immediately called to me, possibly bringing the best of two worlds. But at its current state, is it worth it? Well, let's start this review with the gameplay. First, there is 3 different modes, with co-op survival being your standard game where you and AI or you or online buddies move through a map killing zombies and dealing with special zombies like you would in a typical Left 4 Dead game. Then you have the versus survival where you can play as the infected and you can impede the players. And last but not least, we have Last Stand, where your job is to survive wave after wave. Now in Darksburg, you have your choice between 4 characters who you choose at the start, and then you are locked into. Each player must choose one of the 4 since they all have special abilities that can be used to complement each other. Now every single survivor has a leap or run that gets them out of trouble as one of your 4 abilities, and each has a special attack that builds up over time. To start, we have Varag, who is the main tank and was unfortunately the most boring of the 4 survivors. He could put up his shield to block, which admittedly felt useless a lot, or I just couldn't find a good time to use it. And he has a weird chomp ability that didn't do too much damage. His special made him berserk, and that was fun, but you could tell Varag needs a lot of love at the time of this early access review. Then we have Runov, who I like but is a pure support character with once again not a lot of power, as he has a weak area of effect attack that didn't do much damage, but has the ability to slightly heal teammates, and his special is a pot of food that heals everyone. Then we have Rose, who is the only ranged character who has a bolt attack that passes through the hordes and a slow AoE maneuver that does good damage as well. And last but not least, we have Abigail, who was my favorite and easily the most fleshed out character of the group. She has an ability to distract the entire horde, which leaves your entire team safe, and she has a whirlwind attack that runs through the enemies, and she is just plain fun, with her special ability being a cool priestess attack that does a lot of damage. Each character does level up at the end of a playthrough, as a score gets tallied on how well you did individually and as a team, and when you level at certain increments, you get to choose passive buffs that will help your character in future runs. Now each character brings something different to the table, and you can tell when one of the 4 isn't playing or contributing to the group with their role, because your team will struggle with the run. The zombies you'll encounter range from standard annoying horde to the specialized you would see in a Left 4 Dead game, like the smoker equivalent here, or a tank type creature. Usually it does take a team effort to stop these dudes, and like any Left 4 Dead game, if you venture on your own, the game does punish you and you will die. Ultimately though, playing the different modes, including the standard map run, got definitely a tad bit repetitive. The maps are always the same, and there is only 4 currently in early access. Now the versus mode was fun, but you could tell this still has some balancing issues, as it feels as though the horde players have an advantage here, and they will slowly whittle you down and you'll lose. I do want to know I had a hard time getting games for this, and it would take a while for me to get into one. Last Stand was a lot more interesting with the 20 waves, as you had to protect the well from the horde. If they destroyed it, you would lose, but eventually after a bit I got a little bored of this as well. The controls were very simple, as your right mouse button was your standard attack, and you used a combination of the 3 abilities mapped to your keyboard, but movement felt really slow and certain abilities just didn't feel impactful. So overall gameplay for me was pretty hit or miss on what character you played and which mode you were playing in. But pivoting to the visuals, I have to say this game, while not the prettiest indie game you'll find this year, had a certain charm to it. Some abilities looked fun and flashy, and the maps had enough detail to appreciate after a few runs. The visuals for me grade decent, and I feel I can say it was pleasing enough to enjoy. As for the audio, the sound effects of the attacks was all standard and it sounded good. When you'd hear your survivor leap into battle, you could hear the weight of the crashing down. The swing of your weapon sounded nice, but ultimately nothing here stood out to me good or bad. In the end, my conclusion is that Darksburg really needs some more time in the oven for an early access title. I found myself routinely bored after a while, It felt like I was playing a Diablo game without the fun loot mixed with some Left 4 Dead mechanics. I think what struck me more than anything was I felt like I didn't even have a reason to keep playing. The gameplay itself is fun for a bit, and it's fun playing with others, but the novelty wears off with so few maps after a few playthroughs. The player versus player unfortunately didn't have a lot of people doing it, but this could be a fun aspect, and the last stand just felt like something extra to change the pace, but nothing truly exciting. I think overall the survivors all need a bit more work to their abilities, as it felt only Abigail was the only one truly fleshed out. But despite all that, there is a hidden gem here. A game where if you play with your buddies, you'll have quite a few hours of fun here, and there is some fun gameplay mechanics at hand, with the various special infected really keeping you on your toes. I think Darksburg is a game to watch as it progresses through early access, and would certainly implore the developers to keep at it, as I feel there is some unique aspects and some fun to be had, because it is a different type of game that I think can appeal to a niche crowd looking for something more fantasy based and casual than say Warhammer Vermintide. Since this game is in early access, I won't give it a review score, but at $20 this isn't a huge investment, so if the gameplay does appeal to you, I say pick it up. But if anything I said in this review turns you off, you might want to hold off until it gets a little bit more love down the road. But alright guys, thanks for watching. Please hit that like button as it's so helpful to me as a content creator, and sub to the channel for more indie games coverage. And like always, thank you for watching here at Sunny Indie Gaming.